Morning, I'm Akhilesh Obadiah. Let's begin with the main stories. Chinese President Xi Jinping says China is willing and prepared to lend its support to Nepal for its development processes, says high-level visits should be continued in future. Local-level authorities still devoid of necessary staff despite the passage of a year since the establishment of the elected government. U.S. President Donald Trump bows to public pressure and signs an executive order promising to keep families together in migrant detentions. And Spain defeats Iran, Uruguay takes care of Saudi Arabia, and Portugal defeats Morocco in identical scores at 1-0 at yesterday's Russia World Cup matches. Chinese President Xi Jinping has said China is willing and prepared to lend its support to Nepal for its development processes. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, who is in his 6-day state visit to China, held a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping yesterday afternoon at the Great Hall of the People. Xi said China is willing to support Nepal with constructions of basic infrastructures required for the One Belt Road Initiative. He also added China will lend support with post-calamities reconstructions and trade and investments. President Xi said China and Nepal have been together in ups and downs and that both the countries have maintained peaceful diplomatic relations since the very beginning. Xi further added high-level visits should be continued in future as both the countries have tremendous opportunities to strengthen bilateral relations. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli also expressed commitment towards Chinese policies and said Nepal would not be used for any anti-China activities. Oli also said Nepal is keen on being a part of the Chinese One Belt and Road Initiative. Prime Minister Oli and Chinese President Xi held a 55-minute-long discussion with the Chinese representatives. Likewise, Nepal and China also signed 8 agreements on hydropower, cement, and fruits industry earlier yesterday morning. Prime Minister Oli, who is in China at the invitation of his Chinese counterpart Li Keqiang, is scheduled to meet Premier Li today. We have with us today Editor-in-Chief of the Kathmandu Post, Akhilesh Obadiah, for a live telephone conversation. Akhilesh is in Beijing as part of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's China visit team. Welcome to Kantipur Television, Akhilesh.
Thank you.
How's the mood in Beijing?
Okay, as far as the political mood goes, I would say that the Prime Minister's visit, Prime Minister Oli's visit, is second as a Prime Minister. He first made a visit in 2016 during the Indian border blockade. I think he struck the right note in terms of telling the Chinese a couple of things. First, the political transition is now over. Now you can come and do business in Nepal. That is, he addressed a business forum yesterday, and where he spoke at length about Nepal's comparative advantage as an investment destination. But more importantly, he emphasized that because of the political transition done with, we are now we now have a stable government, and you can come and invest in Nepal. On the political side, where he held talks with on one-on-one with President Xi, and also at a delegation level talks where President Xi was also there. So in total around 1 hour, the two leaders got to spend with each other. Mm-hmm. He again made this point very strongly.
And how is Prime Minister Oli's visit perceived in China?
That's what I'm saying. So he told Xi very strongly, we support your leadership in China, and then you have to recall that he was re-elected as the Communist Party chairman last year. So Oli and President Xi, they struck a very strong rapport where Oli was able to convey that Nepal now needs Chinese investment, and both the leaderships also agreed primarily on, we've been talking about this rail to Kathmandu from Kerung forever, but for the first time in the talks yesterday, there was a blueprint as to how the train can arrive in Kathmandu.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any information on what other agreements are going to be signed today?
Okay, there were 8 agreements signed yesterday, and then I would say 9. 8 agreements at the embassy premises, 1 later between Nepal Electricity Authorities Kulman Gising and his state authority counterpart here. Basically, the agreements have, at least the bigger agreements have been on infrastructure, energy, the transmission line from Kerung to Galchi in Nepal, and other agreements was there's one big agreement on establishing a cement factory. Basically I would say the emphasis on infrastructure and electricity generation, transmission line.
Okay, thank you for the updates, Akhilesh. That was Akhilesh Obadiah, editor-in-chief of the Kathmandu Post, updating us on Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's China visit and yesterday's high-level talks between Prime Minister Oli and Chinese President Xi Jinping. And now moving on, the local level authorities are still devoid of necessary staff despite the passage of a year since the establishment of the elected government. Altogether, 57,000 employees are required for the total 753 local authorities across the country. However, only 40,000 have been deployed as of yet. The vacant positions are unlikely to be fulfilled anytime soon, as the government does not even have adequate staff at the moment. There are around 86,000 civil service employees across the country. The local authorities need only 57,000 staff. Preparation is underway to send additional 10,000 employees to the local level. The fulfillment of the remaining 7,000 posts, however, is still uncertain. The government has not even determined the number of employees required for the federal and provincial governments. Altogether, 21 ministries have been determined so far, but the number of their departments and offices are yet to be fixed. The government is also yet to decide on what authority should be taking care of the staff working at the district administration offices. It's been estimated that 16,000 staff will be under the authority of the provincial governments and 30,000 under the federal government. Nonetheless, the government has remained indifferent and confused with regard to adding employment quotas and expediting appointment, although it has been hampering important administrative works and service delivery to the public. A majority of important government decisions tend to get confined to papers due to failure to mull over possible alternatives. For instance, it has already been 3 years since the announcement was made to free the country from plastic bags. Despite the law has banned the plastic bags of less than 40 micron, the usage of plastic bags has, however, remained rampant both in urban and rural areas. The capital's Bagmati River, which holds both natural and religious importance, has been considerably polluted due to plastic wastage. The river is yet to turn noticeably clean even after 5 years of its continuous cleaning campaign. The Bagmati River is just an example. The extensive usage of plastic bags has been posing significant negative impact on the environment of the capital, along with other urban areas across the country. More than 80% of the plastic bags, be it used for carrying vegetables or other daily consumables, cannot be reused. The plastic bags do not decompose and, if burned, generate gases that are harmful to human health. The then government had announced the ban of plastic bags of less than 40 micron on the 14th of April 2015 and had warned of penalty if anyone found using them. The authority also held monitoring and took action against some violators. The environment at large and the public's health have been paying the price owing to the lack of even minimal effort required to get rid of the plastic bags. Both the authority and the common citizens are responsible in this respect. It's time now for the international update. U.S. President Donald Trump has bowed to public pressure and signed an executive order promising to keep families together in migrant detentions. Trump reversed his own policy amid international fury over the separation of undocumented parents and children. He said that he had been swayed by images of children who have been taken from parents while they are jailed and prosecuted for illegal border crossing. In the executive order, Trump said that he did not like the sight of families being separated, but added that the administration would continue its zero-tolerance policy of criminally prosecuting anyone who crosses the border illegally. The executive order states that immigrant families will be detained together except in cases where there are concerns about the child's welfare, but it is unclear for how long. U.S. immigration official data pictured more than 2,300 children have been taken from some 2,200 parents since 5th of May. Pictures of dozens of children sleeping in fenced enclosures and audio of them crying emerged in recent days, provoking the widespread criticism. We have more news coming up, but right now it's time for another short break. It's now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse, brought to you by.
And here's the question: why have provinces not decided their names yet? Your options are A, avoiding disputes; B, difficult process; C, not in priority. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. It's now time for the sports news.
Sports news, brought to you by.
Spain defeated Iran 1-0 in the Group B match of the Russia World Cup. In the match played late last night, both the teams couldn't score any goals in the first half. In the second half, Diego Costa finally broke the deadlock by scoring a goal in the 54th minute and gave Spain a 1-0 lead.
To a 3-3 draw dramatically against Portugal, and the game soon settled into a pretty familiar theme. Iran defending, Spain trying to find a way through. David Silva hooking his first half attempt over the crossbar, and then later on in that first half, the best chance of the opening 45, Silva, but a terrific block by Pirali Ganji. How many times have you seen David Silva score from that position? Then into the second half, Spain cranked up the pressure. It was always going to be hard for Iran to keep concentrating. Good save from Beranvan, the effort from Busquets. Chances of their and hit by Ansarifat, just wide.
Uruguay has qualified to the round of 16 of the Russia World Cup after defeating Saudi Arabia 1-0 in a Group A match played last night. In the Group A match played at Rostov Arena, Luis Suarez, playing in his 100th game for his country, scored in the 23rd minute and gave Uruguay a 1-0 lead.
Always so threatening here, Uruguay. And again, and they've gone in front. Luis Suarez tucks it in.
It was Suarez's 52nd international goal. Suarez has scored 6 of Uruguay's last 15 World Cup goals. Saudi Arabian goalkeeper Al Awais badly missed an effort to punch the ball that came through a corner kick, and Suarez took full advantage, scoring from close range.
Without doing very much, Luis Suarez, the ball just arrives to him, and he knows what to do from there, doesn't he?
Meanwhile, in another Group B match played yesterday, Cristiano Ronaldo scored his 4th goal of the 2018 World Cup, but his team were deeply fortunate to secure 3 points against Group B opponents Morocco in Moscow. Today, Denmark will clash with...
What next? Well, those who have travelled from North Africa know that Morocco need at least a point. Bernardo Silva working it short this time, in by Moutinho and in by Ronaldo! He is a sensation! Free headline. Swung in by Moutinho. Ronaldo without a doubt.
today, Denmark will clash with Australia at 5:45 p.m., while France will take on Peru at 8:45 p.m., and Argentina will face Croatia at 11:45 p.m. Nepal time.
And he leaves behind him another legend of the international game and of Real Madrid, one Ferenc Puskas. Guadalajara in '86. What a run. Playing in Ronaldo again! He scratched it wide.
And now, before we wrap up, here's a look at the headlines one more time. Chinese President Xi Jinping says China is willing and prepared to lend its support to Nepal for its development processes, says high-level visits should be continued in future. Local level authorities still devoid of necessary staff despite the passage of a year since the establishment of the elected government. US President Donald Trump bows to public pressure and signs an executive order promising to keep families together in migrant detentions. And Spain defeats Iran, Uruguay takes care of Saudi Arabia, and Portugal defeats Morocco in identical scores 1-0 at yesterday's Russia World Cup matches. And that's all for the moment. Our next English bulletin will air at 11 this morning. Keep watching Kantipur Television HD for more news, entertainment, and updates on Russia World Cup. Have a good morning.